I just got to tell you my real honest take, and it's that this movie fails at pretty much everything a movie is supposed to do. It left me so incredibly frustrated, and I personally cannot believe this is the first movie in Phase 5.
So for what it's worth, this review will be doing two major tasks. One which you can ignore because it's kind of an internet trauma thing, but I don't want to deceive people who are old or new that I've had some issues with Den of Nerds. Ironically, not through their content, but because of their connection to Star Wars Theory. And if you know Theory, he's basically one of the biggest voices in the Star Wars community, good or bad. I think his influence has been mostly negative, and I don't like it when Den of Nerds tries to defend Theory and some of his more crazy antics. However, I'm also not crazy stupid, and I actually do like some of their content elsewhere. So to not be a hypocrite, I think I will actually converge with them a lot with their opinion on the DC Universe, Snyder, and their low opinion of the MCU. I probably differ greatly on the sequels. I defend them perhaps a lot more than they do, but we'll differ there. So we're going to jump from the particular to the general issues that Den of Nerds had with Antman, Quantumania. I think ironically their specific charges, although they're very strong, are a little weaker, but I think their more general issues are a lot stronger. So let's hear what went wrong with the editing process in Ant-Man 3.
Film schooly, and everybody's going to be like, Josh, we don't care about stuff like that. But I just got to say, the editing in this movie was atrocious. I have not seen this bad of editing in a movie since the first Suicide Squad over at DC. There were a couple cuts that stood out to me. Like there's a scene where Kang takes Janet by the hand and goes through a portal, and it literally cuts to a scene where he's on his time chair and she's being brought in front of him by guards. And I know there's supposed to be a time gap there, but guess what? You just got to edit something else in between it or do something to create that time gap. It was absolutely atrocious. There's another one that pointed out to me, or that stuck out to me, when Hank Pym is just landing the plane. There's like this random cut to Hank Pym landing the shuttle. It looks horrible, and they don't even show the full cut before cutting back to Scott. And again, I am sure.
Well, this is pretty devastating. And although I have not seen the film, and I'm very prejudiced, basically having been spoiled on the plot, I will try to be fair and play devil's advocate. And I try to do that with all films, even films I don't like. Like, I don't like Halloween Ends. If you ask me personally what I think of it, I think it's 1 out of 10. I think it's one of the worst things I've ever seen. But being fair, I'm going to have to grant it did some things correctly. Same thing with Infinity War and Endgame. I consider those films some of the worst films I've ever seen. However, I would have to grant they did some things correct, so I'll give them slightly fair scores of respectively maybe 3.25 out of 10, 3.5 out of 10, or 4 out of 10, so on and so forth. So similarly here, I think this is pretty devastating that they couldn't even get the editing right. However, this is the quantum realm. So to be fair to the film, perhaps space and time don't operate the same as they do in our, quote, everyday reality. Now, I know physics a little bit and quantum physics a little bit. I don't think this aligns with how I understand quantum physics works. However, this is science fiction, so it is possible. I don't think this probably happened, but it is possible internally this science fiction reality can explain why there were these weird moments of transitioning from scene to scene or moment to moment. So the editing might indeed be really stupid, but internally it does make sense for the story. I don't think I'm going to join that this is one of the worst things of all time. I think I will join it is near the bottom of the barrel, and that is bad enough, but maybe the editing and its mistakes can be explained internally, and I would go there. But on the more general statement, this is horrible garbage and corporate trash, I do actually agree. And there, I think Den of Nerds is very strong. So let's hear them on their more general problems with Ant-Man 3.
Jump Street, I felt like we're missing important pieces to sort of move on with the story, and yet the story was like, nah, we're good, boom, and just zooms on past it. MODOK is the stuff of nightmares, disturbing in a way that I don't really know how to articulate, like not quite body horror, but maybe close, and I couldn't believe how much of MODOK there was in this movie. Every time he popped his mask off, I literally like wanted to look away. I was like, dude, What is going on here? The movie is so poorly paced that it simultaneously feels like 5 hours and 20 minutes. It feels like nothing happens. You're just at the end of the movie. The army's there. Everybody's ready to go. And yet at the same time, it feels like it's been going on for an agonizing long period of time. Maybe intentional. Maybe they were trying to give you a little taste of what it's like to be in the quantum realm. Well, guess what? I don't fucking like it.
Well, I would agree and go further because I think the way I do scores and the way they do scores is different. The way I come at it is this. If you do a Kubrick or David Lynch film, or a film where your perceptions of time and space and size and matter are themselves being directly challenged, because Lynch and Kubrick are fascinated by dreams, our consciousness, and our perspective. So the fact that I don't understand everything happening in Mulholland Drive or Eyes Wide Shut or does not matter to me. Now, I don't think 2001 is as good as people say it is. I would probably give it a very severe score of 5 out of 10. However, I'm not going to give it a 1 out of 10 because there may be things I don't understand because they're not meant to be understood. They're beyond the grasp of our perceptive faculties. It's asking us to do something very serious and examining the limits of our knowledge. Unfortunately, I don't think Ant-Man 3 is doing anything as deep or profound even as Star Wars, which is also trying to challenge our perceptions of what it means to be a human being. It is mostly CGI junk being cobbled together with some with some silly jokes and some effective performances, but really it feels like glorified cosplay. That can still be very powerful. I mean, you could look at Eyes Wide Shut. It basically is just a costume drama. But again, it just shows you where in creative vision, we're not looking at the creator. We're just saying what we see in the film itself displays a certain amount of artistic merit that resists just being a corporate product. You could be a communist or a Marxist and say, objectively, the historical forces tell us this is just a corporate product of the capitalist system, whatever. I mean, that's fine. That's your perspective. I disagree. I think works of art do always have some inherent artistic measure. How to measure that artistic merit is really hard. Unfortunately, I don't think Peyton Reed is in the Kubrick class of great creators. We have to just look at the film, and looking at it from what I can see, it's okay on many levels, but on many other levels, it's devastatingly very weak and doesn't bring anything new to the table. It's not even new in terms of the MCU. It's just very, very weak and poor. And I don't think appealing to Infinity War and Endgame makes things better. It may bump up the score a little bit because if we just judge the film by itself, I think I'd probably give it a 2 out of 10. But good or bad, it is tied to these other stories. These other stories may help it, but I don't think they help it that much. So I'm probably going to land on the score of 3.75 out of 10, which is pretty devastating, but it's not 1 out of 10. It's not 0 out of 10. So that's something. But I want to see this for myself and see how bad it truly is. But I don't have any reason to doubt Den of Nerds was being very accurate, being very severe, being very generous too.